and welcome to 60 Minutes. My name is Mark Adamson and tonight we will be breaking down the ongoing Qantas dispute and explain how Australia's most significant industrial relations dispute occurred and how it was handled by those involved. There were numerous parties involved with the grounding of all Qantas flights. Parties involved with this dispute include the unions involved, which were the Australian and International Parts Association, the Transport Workers Union, and the Australian Licensed Aircraft Engineers Association. These unions were involved in the dispute as they are accountable to all of their employees working for Qantas and had an impact on the employees going on strike and trying to improve their conditions of work. Qantas management and their CEO, Alan Joyce, also had significant involvement in the dispute with their decision to cease all flights domestically and internationally. This decision set them back millions of dollars but set a precedent for the airline industry if a similar issue was to arise again. A certain group of employees were also involved. Pilots, baggage handlers, and ground staff were the employees responsible for the strike and were away from work for 3 days. Employee pay conditions and the outsourcing of specific jobs were the main factor the dispute occurred. The federal government was also involved as a mediator, trying to ease the tension between Qantas management and their employees. The dispute between Qantas and their employees first occurred on the 22nd of March 2011, when 9,000 Qantas employees threatened to strike unless they were to receive a 4% increase on their current pay rate. Qantas replied to this by claiming that they would not negotiate new terms until July, 4 months later. A week after this movement from their employees, Qantas announced intermediate job cuts due to a rising cost of fuel and natural disasters. Qantas also offered voluntary redundancy to all 7,000 of its cabin crew. As you can imagine, there was a number of issues that arise due to Alan Joyce's decision of grounding all flights to Qantas worldwide. As expected, this had a huge effect on the company itself, and more importantly, the thousands of people travelling with Qantas and employees not contributing to the dispute. By the numbers, the dispute caused 447 flights to be grounded, which cost $80 million over the 3 days, and left 68,000 people having to seek out alternate options of travel. More than 20,000 of these customers used Virgin's cheapest fare to the advantage and travelled with Qantas competitors instead. Another issue in this dispute occurred when Qantas's pilots threatened to strike due to their jobs being outsourced into Asia in order to make pilots cheaper. They were also wanting a pay rise on their already well-paying jobs. During the dispute, Qantas pilots were amongst the best paid in the world, earning approximately more than 30% of the pilots working for Virgin. The average pilot earns $350,000 for flying a Boeing 737, and a Qantas pilot flying an Airbus A380 earns up to $400,000, both including superannuation. On average, these pilots are rostered to fly 16 to 17.5 hours per week, while also being entitled to 6 weeks annual leave and 25 sick leave days per year. These pilots were demanding a 2.5% increase on their wages per year with the assistance of the Australian International Parts Association, who claimed that they were involved in the dispute for one reason: the right of Australian Qantas pilots to continue operating Qantas flights. Australian tourism has also taken a huge knock during the dispute and will continue to have issues well into the future. John Lee, the head of tourism and transport at the time, said to the media that the last thing tourism needs now is a man-made disaster that cripples the whole of our industry and means tens of thousands of tourism workers get out of paid jobs. It's thrown the industry into chaos. Hotels are scrambling with phones ringing hot off the press with cancellations and also trying to assist Qantas to place its stranded guests. Roger Powell, an employee from Tourism Accommodation Australia, also said, "This is impacting people around the world in an environment where our traditional long-haul international markets are all in struggling economies and our dollar is high. The dispute will have significant impact on the economy unless resolved quickly." According to Queensland Premier Anna Bligh at the time, this dispute is now set to have a crippling effect on the Queensland and national economy. It is devastating for our tourism industry. I call on all parties to get around the table and solve this dispute. The Queensland Government is taking legal advice overnight on what actions are now available to us to bring this dispute to a head and get it solved to the public. These issues had a large effect on Qantas and their employees. The dispute affected the customer satisfaction of the people caught up in the dispute and had an impact on the brand reputation. This affects Qantas as these customers might be more inclined to travel with another airline due to the 2011 dispute. A significant loss in customers occurred with Qantas CEO Alan Joyce reporting that the east coast of Australia's high-value bookings were down 25% on the same period as last year. Qantas international bookings were also down about 10% to what they expected them to be. Qantas expect the dispute to cost them $20 million a day during the period of the dispute and briefly after. The brand's reputation has took a significant hit, with up to a quarter of sales being lost compared to the year before. Prices of shares also impact Qantas and their profit over the period dispute, resulting in a loss. Thank you for listening tonight, and we will return next week with more information.